The ambassador's shadow. The Helios diplomatic station hung in space like a jeweled spider's web, its crystalline spires refracting starlight in patterns that never failed to catch the eye of approaching vessels. But inside, the atmosphere was far less welcoming. The station's corridors had grown unnaturally quiet, the kind of silence that preceded storms or declarations of war. Ambassador Kira Valen's footsteps made no sound as she glided through the West Wing, but her presence sent ripples through the station nonetheless. Junior diplomats pressed themselves against walls, maintenance crews found urgent reasons to duck into service tunnels, and even the station's AI seemed to dim its lights in deference to her passing. The Nixtharian diplomat cut an imposing figure, nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue depending on the light. Her ceremonial armor, worn even in times of peace, caught and reflected light in ways that made it difficult to look at her directly. But it was her eyes that truly unnerved most species, solid silver with no pupils, yet somehow conveying volumes of ancient disdain. Ambassador Valen, a nervous Centaurian aide called out, his translator struggling to maintain a steady tone. The Rigelian delegation requests a delay in today's. Denied, Kira cut him off, her own translator rendering her words in perfect galactic standard, though underlaid with harmonics that made most species' spinal columns vibrate uncomfortably. They have delayed 3 times. They will meet now, or they will explain to their council why trade negotiations failed. The aide scurried away, leaving Kira to continue her purposeful stride toward the meditation gardens. Her species didn't require traditional rest, but even she had to admit that the constant dance of diplomacy could wear on one's patience. She had just reached the garden's entrance when an unexpected sound caught her attention. Someone was whistling. Not the mechanical whistles used in some species' communication protocols, but an actual tune, carefree and slightly off-key. Kira's head frills flared slightly in annoyance. The gardens were supposed to be empty at this hour, reserved for senior diplomatic staff's private use. She rounded a corner to find a human male sitting cross-legged on the ground, surrounded by scattered tools and what appeared to be the dismantled remains of an atmospheric processing unit. He wore a standard station maintenance uniform, though his was decorated with an unusual number of unofficial patches and pins. One patch, clearly hand-stitched, read, "Marcus Reed, I fix things you didn't know could break." The human looked up as she approached, and Kira prepared herself for the usual reaction, the sharp intake of breath, the widening of eyes, the subtle shift in body position that indicated preparation for flight. Instead, Marcus smiled and waved, as casually as if greeting an old friend at a cafe. "Hey, sorry about the mess. These old Mark 7 processors are temperamental as cats. Though I guess you wouldn't know about cats, being." He gestured vaguely at her towering form, "You know, not from Earth and all." Kira's head frills extended to their full width, a warning display that had once caused a Martian ambassador to faint. "You are in a restricted area." "Oh yeah, about that," Marcus replied, returning his attention to the processor's inner workings. The atmospheric sensors were showing some weird readings. "Nothing dangerous," he added quickly, seeing her posture stiffen further. "Just thought I'd better check it out before any of the bigwigs started getting lightheaded during their important talks about important things." "I am Ambassador Kira Valen of the Nixtharian Diplomatic Corps," she stated, injecting her voice with the subsonic frequencies that typically induced immediate respect or terror. Marcus just nodded, not even looking up from his work. "Cool. I'm Marcus Reed, Senior Maintenance Engineer. Well, technically acting Senior Maintenance Engineer since Jenna's on maternity leave. Did you know Andorians need 3 parents for maternity leave? Station HR's still trying to figure that one out." Kira took a step closer, her armor catching the garden's soft light in ways that created disorienting patterns. "You do not seem appropriately concerned about your situation." Finally, Marcus looked up again, his brown eyes meeting her silver ones without hesitation. "Should I be? I mean, I know you Nixtharians have this whole scary impressive thing going on, and don't get me wrong, it works. Very intimidating. But..." He paused, considering his next words carefully. The way I see it, someone who really wanted to hurt me wouldn't waste time trying to look scary. They'd just do it. For the first time in several solar cycles, Kira found herself without an immediate response. The human's logic was not entirely unsound. Before she could formulate a proper reply, Marcus had already returned to his work, humming softly. Besides, he added, anyone who spends their free time in a garden can't be all bad. Even if they do dress like they're ready for an intergalactic fashion show/boxing match. You are. Kira searched her translator's database for the appropriate term, impossibly irritating. Thanks. I practice. He held up a small component, squinting at it. Hey, since you're here, mind holding this light? These scales aren't calibrated for Nextherian vision, but I bet you could spot any microfractures way better than my human eyes. Against all diplomatic protocol, all her training, and most certainly against her better judgment, Kira found herself kneeling beside the scattered machinery. You are either very brave or very foolish, she observed, taking the light. Marcus grinned, the expression surprisingly genuine. Funny how often those two things overlap, isn't it? He pointed to a series of nearly invisible lines in the component's surface. See anything interesting there? As Kira leaned in to examine the machinery, she was struck by a strange realization. For the first time since arriving on the station, someone was looking at her not as a symbol, not as a threat, but simply as a person who might be able to help fix a broken thing. The garden's atmospheric processor hummed quietly in the background, its rhythm almost like a laugh, protocols and power tools. The emergency alert blared through Helio Station's diplomatic quarter with all the subtlety of a quantum explosion. Red warning lights painted the pristine corridors in shades of blood and rust, while the station's AI repeated its message in 17 different languages, critical system failure in Section D7. All non-essential personnel please evacuate. Kira Valen stood in the middle of the chaos, her silver eyes narrowed at the holographic display showing cascading failures across multiple systems. Around her, various species diplomats hurried toward their designated safe zones, though none dared bump into her despite their haste. Her ceremonial armor had shifted its coloring to match the emergency lighting, making her look like a living flame. Ambassador, a trembling Arcturian aide approached her, all four of their eyes blinking rapidly. The Regelian delegation is demanding immediate. Tell them, Kira cut in, her translator adding harmonics that made the aide's antennae curl, that if they wish to discuss trade agreements while the station's life support is failing, I will personally escort them to the nearest airlock for a more direct negotiation. The aide fled. Kira's head frills flattened against her skull as she studied the spreading red indicators on the display. Something about this pattern seemed incoming. Marcus Reed's voice echoed down the corridor, followed by the man himself riding what appeared to be a modified maintenance hover sled loaded with tools and equipment. He brought the sled to a stop beside her, his usual grin somewhat strained. So, funny story about the primary environmental control system. What did you do? Kira's voice could have frozen plasma. Me? Nothing. Well, technically something, but only because someone else did something first, which made me have to do something else, which led to, you know what? Not important right now. He grabbed a tool that looked like a cross between a wrench and a medical scanner. What's important is that in about 10 minutes, this entire section is going to think it's on Venus. And not the nice parts of Venus. Kira's armor shifted colors again, this time to a deep, threatening purple. Explain. Quickly. Short version. Marcus was already pulling open a wall panel, revealing a maze of circuitry and conduits. Someone tried to slice into the environmental controls. Pretty sophisticated hack too. I caught it during routine maintenance and tried to lock them out, but they had failsafes. Now the whole system's going haywire. Sabotage, Kira hissed, the word carrying subsonic frequencies that made nearby windows vibrate. During peace talks. Yeah, pretty much. Marcus had his head and shoulders inside the wall now, voice slightly muffled. Hey, since you're here, want to help prevent a diplomatic incident/environmental catastrophe? Kira's first instinct was to refuse. This was precisely the sort of situation that required official channels, proper protocols, and certainly not the direct involvement of a senior diplomat. But then again, protocols rarely accounted for imminent artificial Venus-like conditions. "What do you require?" she asked, mentally preparing her explanation for the inevitable inquiry. "Great." Marcus emerged from the wall long enough to hand her what looked like a quantum spanner. "I need you to monitor these readings. If any of them go into the red zone, just hit something with that. Preferably something mechanical." "You want me to hit things?" "Well, yeah. I mean, you've got that whole warrior diplomat vibe going on. Figured you'd be good at controlled violence." Before Kira could respond to that rather questionable logic, a new alarm joined the chorus, this one pitched high enough to make her head frills ache. The temperature in the corridor noticeably increased. "That's not good," Marcus muttered, diving back into the wall. "Okay, change of plans. See that panel about 2 meters up? The one with the pulsing blue light? I need you to interface with it directly." "Interface? You mean use my neural capabilities?" Every Nixtherian possessed natural bioelectric abilities, but using them on station equipment was strictly forbidden by at least 3 different treaties. "Is this the time to worry about regulations?" Marcus called out, somehow managing to sound both stressed and amused. "Besides, I won't tell if you won't." The temperature climbed another few degrees. Somewhere down the corridor, something made an ominous popping sound. Kira made her decision. With a fluid motion that sent her armor rippling with new patterns, she pressed her scaled hand against the panel. Her head frills extended fully as she channeled her species' natural energy into the station systems. The sensation was unusual. She could feel the corrupted programming like thorns in her mind, taste the malicious code like bitter metal on her tongue. Following Marcus's rapid-fire instructions, she began to isolate and neutralize the foreign elements. "That's it," Marcus shouted encouragingly. "Just like debugging a computer, except the computer is trying to cook us alive." "Your ability to find humor in potential death scenarios is concerning," Kira grunted, her silver eyes glowing brighter with effort. "It's a gift." "Okay, on my mark, I need you to channel everything you've got into that panel. We're going to force a reset, but it has to be perfectly timed or we die horribly," she suggested. "See? You're getting better at humor already. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Now." Kira surged her energy into the system just as Marcus slammed something inside the wall. For a moment, everything went dark. The alarms died. The temperature peaked. Even Kira's armor seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a series of clicks and whirs, the systems came back online. Normal lighting returned. The temperature began to drop. The station's AI announced in a much calmer voice that the emergency had been resolved. Kira stepped back from the panel, feeling oddly drained. Marcus emerged from the wall, his uniform covered in some sort of luminescent fluid that she was quite certain humans shouldn't touch with bare skin. He announced proudly, make a pretty good team. We violated approximately 17 safety protocols and at least 2 interstellar treaties, Kira pointed out. Yeah, but we did it with style. He held up a hand. Come on, you know you want to. Want to what? High five. It's an ancient human tradition celebrating successful cooperation and or not dying. Kira stared at his raised hand for a long moment. Then, with a slight shift of her armor that might have been a sigh, she carefully tapped her scaled palm against his. There, Marcus beamed, was that so hard? The diplomatic corps will need a full report, she said, trying to regain her usual stern demeanor despite the lingering warmth in her palm. Already on it. Well, sort of. I'm thinking of calling it How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Trust a Nixtherian. Too much. Before Kira could respond, her communicator chimed. The Regellian delegation was demanding an immediate explanation for the disruption. 3 other species had filed formal protests. And someone needed to explain why the station's AI was now humming what sounded suspiciously like ancient Earth victory songs. Your species, she told Marcus as she prepared to deal with the diplomatic fallout, is impossibly chaotic. Yeah, he agreed cheerfully, already packing up his tools. But admit it, life would be pretty boring without us. As Kira strode away, her armor cycling through its formal patterns once more, she found she couldn't entirely disagree. Though she would rather face another environmental crisis than admit it out loud. The Council's scrutiny. High Counselor Dexval's arrival on Helios Station was marked by absolute silence. No ceremonial announcements, no honor guard, just the sudden appearance of an Nextherian warship that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the starlight. Its presence alone was enough to send the station's diplomatic community into a frenzy of whispered speculations and hastily rescheduled meetings. Kira stood in the primary docking bay, her armor displaying the formal patterns of full diplomatic submission, a cascade of deep blues and silvers that rippled from collar to boots. Around her, the station's senior staff maintained a careful distance, all except for Marcus, who was supposedly checking the bay's pressure seals but seemed more interested in stealing glances at the approaching ship. "So that's your boss's boss," he whispered, pretending to scan a perfectly functional control panel. "The one who makes you look cuddly by comparison?" "Silence," Kira hissed, though her head frills twitched in what might have been amusement. High Counselor Dexval is the voice of the Nextherian diplomatic corps itself. Show proper respect, or... The docking bay doors opened with a synchronized hiss, revealing a figure that seemed to be made of living shadow. High Counselor Dexval stood nearly 9 feet tall, their ceremonial armor so dark it created its own event horizon of intimidation. Where Kira's head frills were elegant and expressive, Dexval's were adorned with ceremonial metals that clinked like wind chimes designed by a nightmare. Ambassador Valen, Dexval's voice resonated through the bay, their translator adding harmonics that made several junior diplomats take involuntary steps backward. "We have much to discuss." Honored one, Kira bowed deeply, her armor shifting to display patterns of deepest respect. "We are. Starting with your recent associations." Dexval's silver eyes fixed on Marcus, who had given up all pretense of checking equipment and was now openly staring. "This human, for instance." "Oh hey," Marcus waved cheerfully, ignoring Kira's subtle head frill warning signals. "I'm Marcus. I fix things. Sometimes with the ambassador's help, which, by the way, has saved this station at least twice now. Love what you've done with the whole living darkness aesthetic, very dramatic. Do you have to special order that armor or does it come standard issue for?" "Silence," Dexval commanded, their armor rippling with patterns that typically preceded diplomatic incidents involving airlocks. Marcus, displaying either remarkable courage or complete inability to read room temperature, just smiled. "You know, Kira used to say that too. Now she only says it maybe once or twice a day." Progress. The temperature in the docking bay dropped several degrees. Dexval turned to Kira, their head frills extended to full threatening display. "You allow this creature such familiarity?" Before Kira could respond, Marcus stepped forward. "Okay, first off, creature is a bit harsh. I prefer charming station maintenance engineer or that guy who keeps the artificial gravity from turning everyone into ceiling decorations. And second, has anyone ever told you that you Nextherians might be a little too invested in the whole fear-based diplomacy thing?" The silence that followed was so complete that even the station's ambient hum seemed to hold its breath. Dexval's armor had gone completely black, a sign that even Kira had never seen before. "You dare," Dexval began, but Marcus cut them off. "Yeah, I dare. Because here's the thing, I've worked with Kira long enough to know that behind all that scary armor and those impressive frills is someone who actually cares about making this station work. Someone who'll break protocol to save lives, who'll listen to crazy human ideas when they make sense, and who, don't deny it, Ambassador, has actually learned to appreciate a good joke about quantum physics." Kira's armor betrayed her by shifting slightly to a warmer hue, a fact that didn't escape Dexval's notice. "This is precisely why we are here," the High Counselor declared. "Ambassador Valen, you have allowed yourself to become contaminated by human informality. You have participated in unauthorized equipment repairs, engaged in casual conversation with maintenance personnel, and there are reports," they paused for dramatic effect, "of you performing a human high-five ritual." "In my defense," Kira said carefully, "we had just prevented the station from becoming uninhabitable. Using forbidden neural interfaces with station equipment. Which saved approximately 300 diplomatic lives," Marcus pointed out. "But hey, if you prefer following protocols to actually solving problems, I'm sure the Regelian ambassador would love to discuss how their entire delegation almost got steam-cooked." Dexval's head frills rattled ominously. "You suggest we abandon millennia of diplomatic tradition for convenience?" "Nah," Marcus grinned, "I'm suggesting you might learn something from someone who sees past all that tradition to the person underneath. Like how I know Kira's armor shifts to purple when she's trying not to laugh at one of my jokes. Or how her head frills do this little dance when she's about to solve a really complex problem. Or how she's probably going to make me repair the waste recycling system for a month for saying all this out loud." 2 months, Kira muttered, but her armor had definitely taken on a warmer hue. Dexval looked between them, their own armor cycling through patterns so quickly it was almost dizzying. "This is unprecedented." "Most good things are," Marcus said. "Did you know Kira had never tried Earth chocolate until last week? Now she admits it's not entirely displeasing to the palate. Coming from a Nixtharian, that's practically a 5-star review." "High Counselor," Kira stepped forward, her voice formal but firm. "Marcus Reed's methods are unorthodox. His behavior defies most known diplomatic protocols. He has no sense of proper hierarchy, an alarming tendency to name inanimate objects, and a truly disturbing habit of humming while he works." "Hey!" Marcus protested. "However," she continued, "his presence has improved station efficiency by 43%. Diplomatic incidents involving technical failures have decreased by 60%. And..." She paused, her armor shifting to display a pattern that hadn't been seen in Nixtharian diplomatic corps for centuries, uncertainty mixed with conviction. "And he has taught me that effectiveness does not always require fear." Dexval was silent for a long moment, their armor slowly settling into a more neutral pattern. "You truly believe this human's influence has been beneficial?" "I believe," Kira said carefully, "that sometimes the most diplomatic solution is to allow ourselves to see beyond our preconceptions. Also," Marcus added, "I make really good coffee. Even fixed the replicator to make a Nixtharian version that won't dissolve their cups. Took some doing, let me tell you." "Two beings, two species, working in harmony," Dexval mused, cutting off Marcus's coffee monologue. Perhaps there is something to be learned here. Though this will require extensive documentation for the Council." "Oh great," Marcus beamed. "I've already started a blog. Working title, How to Win Friends and Influence Nixtharians. Still workshopping it." Kira's head frills flattened in what might have been embarrassment, but her armor had shifted to a pattern that, in ancient Nixtharian tradition, represented something very close to pride, resonance in the void. The quantum storm hit Helios Station without warning. One moment, the stars shone steadily through the observation windows, the next, reality itself seemed to shudder. Space twisted into impossible colors as subatomic particles decided to rewrite their own rules of existence. Kira stood in the station's central control room, her armor automatically shifting to emergency patterns as she processed the cascade of incoming data. Around her, holographic displays showed critical systems failing faster than the AI could report them. "Status," she demanded, her translator barely keeping up with the urgency in her voice. "Quantum shields at 37% and falling," a vegan technician reported, their tentacles moving frantically across multiple control surfaces. "The storm's interference is affecting our core stabilizers." "Where is Marcus Reed?" Kira's head frills extended fully, scanning the room. Engineering level, the station's AI responded. Currently attempting to, warning, quantum fluctuation detected in Sector 7. Structural integrity compromised. The station groaned, a deep sound that seemed to come from its very bones. Through the observation windows, Kira could see the quantum storm's effects distorting space itself, creating patterns that hurt even her advanced eyes to look at. Her communicator crackled. "Hey Ambassador," Marcus's voice came through, broken by static. "Remember how you said I should never try to manually reset the quantum core?" "Well, funny story." "Marcus," Kira's voice carried warning harmonics that made nearby equipment vibrate. "What are you doing?" "Saving the station." "Probably. There's like a 60 to 40 chance. Maybe 55 to 45. The math gets weird when reality starts hiccuping." The station shuddered again. Through the static, Kira could hear the distinctive whine of quantum machinery being pushed far beyond its safety limits. "The core is too unstable," she said, already moving toward the engineering level. "A manual reset could tear the station apart." "Yeah, about that. More static. I might need your help." "Your species' neural interface capabilities? Turns out they're pretty good at quantum alignment." "Who knew?" "It would require direct neural contact with an unstable quantum core," Kira replied, her armor darkening at the thought. "The risk of complete neural dissolution is high, yeah. But hey, better than letting the station get turned inside out, right? Plus, I've got a plan." "Your plans typically end in explosions." "Only the fun ones. Look, I've modified the core's interface. If we work together, you with your fancy neural powers, me with my incredibly handsome technical expertise, we might just pull this off." Kira reached the engineering level to find chaos. Emergency force fields flickered erratically, trying to contain quantum leaks that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. In the center of it all stood Marcus, his hands deep in the quantum core's control panel, surrounded by tools that seemed to be shifting between different states of existence. "You look terrible," she noted, taking in his disheveled appearance. "And you look as terrifyingly perfect as always," he grinned, though she could see the strain in his eyes. "Ready to break some more protocols?" Another station-wide shudder. The AI's voice came through, distorted, warning, quantum cascade failure imminent. Core stability at critical levels. "No choice now," Marcus said. "We do this together or we don't do it at all." Kira's armor shifted through emergency patterns before settling on one she'd never displayed before, determination mixed with trust. "What do you need me to do?" "Place your hands here and here," he indicated 2 points on the core housing. "When I give the signal, channel everything you've got into stabilizing the quantum field. I'll handle the technical reset, you keep reality from getting too creative with physics." "This plan is insane," she stated flatly. "Yeah, but admit it, you kind of like my insane plans." Before she could respond, the station lurched violently. Warning klaxons blared as the quantum storm intensified. "Now!" Marcus shouted. Kira pressed her scaled hands against the core housing, extending her neural capabilities to their limit. The sensation was unlike anything she'd experienced, like trying to hold on to liquid lightning while juggling black holes. Through her neural connection, she could feel the quantum field trying to unravel, could taste the mathematics of reality threatening to recalculate themselves into chaos. "Stay with me," Marcus's voice seemed to come from very far away. "You're doing great. Just hold it steady while I..." The pain was extraordinary. Every cell in Kira's body screamed as she forced her neural energy into maintaining quantum stability. Her armor shifted wildly, unable to settle on a single pattern as she fought against the very fabric of spacetime. Then she felt it, warm hands covering her own, adding their strength to hers. Marcus had pressed his palms over her scaled ones, his human nervous system somehow resonating with her Nixtherian neural capabilities. "Together," he said simply. The quantum core pulsed once, twice, then began to stabilize. Through their combined connection, Kira could feel Marcus's consciousness, bright, chaotic, endlessly optimistic, working in perfect harmony with her own disciplined focus. Slowly, impossibly, the storm began to recede. Reality remembered its proper shape. The station's groaning subsided. Core stabilizing, the AI announced, its voice returning to normal. Quantum field integrity restored. Well done, unlikely duo. They stayed connected for a moment longer than necessary, both reluctant to break whatever impossible thing they'd just achieved. When they finally stepped back, Kira's armor had settled into a pattern that even she didn't recognize, something entirely new. That was. She began. Amazing. Terrifying. A stunning example of interspecies cooperation that's definitely going in my blog. Impossible, she finished. What you did, connecting with my neural interface, should not have been possible. Marcus shrugged, though he was swaying slightly on his feet. Maybe the universe likes it when we break the rules a little. You know, keep it on its toes. The universe does not have toes. See? You're making jokes now. Character development. Before Kira could argue that she most certainly was not making jokes, her communicator chimed. High Counselor Dex Val was demanding an immediate report on the quantum anomaly and their unorthodox method of resolving it. I suppose, she said carefully, this will require another extensive explanation to the Council. Tell them it was a practical demonstration of innovative diplomatic techniques, Marcus suggested. Or just show them your armor's new pattern. What does that one mean, anyway? Kira looked down at her armor, still displaying its unprecedented configuration. I do not know. This pattern has never existed before. Well, Marcus grinned, maybe it means something new. Something about an Nixtharian diplomat and a human engineer figuring out that the best solutions don't always follow the rules. For once, Kira didn't argue. Her head frills shifted in what might have been agreement as she began composing her report to the Council. Behind her, Marcus started humming again, but this time, she found she didn't mind the sound quite so much. Beyond protocol. The summons came 3 days after the quantum storm. Not through official channels or diplomatic communiques, but via a priority transmission directly from the Nixtharian High Council itself. The message was brief, its implications vast: the ambassador's presence is required. Immediately. Alone. Kira stood in her quarters, watching her armor cycle through formal patterns as she prepared for departure. The new configuration, the one born during the quantum storm, kept trying to assert itself, requiring conscious effort to suppress. A knock at her door interrupted her preparation. Not the standard diplomatic chime, but a peculiar rhythm that could only be one person. Enter, she called, already knowing who it was. Marcus stepped in, looking uncharacteristically serious. So, he said, going home to face the music? An odd phrase, Kira noted, her head frills twitching. Nixtharians do not employ music in our disciplinary procedures. Maybe you should. Might make those council meetings less scary. He paused, studying her. Your armor's fighting you, isn't it? Keeps wanting to show that new pattern. You are becoming disturbingly adept at reading Nixtharian expressions. Well, you're becoming disturbingly good at human sarcasm, so I'd call it even. He moved closer, his usual smile returning but tinged with concern. They're not happy about the quantum core incident, are they? The council believes I have become compromised. That my willingness to engage in unorthodox solutions represents a deterioration of proper diplomatic protocol. Her armor flickered briefly to the new pattern before she forced it back. You mean they're worried because you've learned there's more than one way to solve a problem? Because you've discovered that maybe, just maybe, not everything needs to be handled with fear and intimidation? The Nixtharian diplomatic approach has maintained peace for millennia. Has it? Marcus leaned against her desk, crossing his arms. Or has it just maintained distance? There's a difference between peace and isolation, you know. Before Kira could respond, her quarters computer chimed. "Ambassador, your shuttle departs in 20 minutes. Here," Marcus said suddenly, reaching into his pocket. "I made you something." "Well, modified something." "Well, technically violated about 15 protocols to create something, but who's counting?" He held out what appeared to be a standard station maintenance badge, but as Kira took it, she felt the subtle hum of custom quantum circuitry. "It's tied into the station's systems," he explained. "As long as you have it, you'll have a direct link to everything we've built here. All the repairs we've made, all the problems we've solved together. Scientific proof that breaking protocol sometimes leads to better solutions." Kira turned the badge over in her hands, her armor shifting spontaneously to display complex emotional patterns. "This is highly irregular. That's kind of our thing, isn't it?" The computer chimed again, 15 minutes to departure. "Marcus," Kira began, then stopped, searching for words that didn't exist in either of their languages. "Hey," he said softly, "remember what you told that Regelian ambassador? About how true strength isn't about making others fear you, but about being willing to see things from their perspective? I was attempting to prevent him from starting a trade war. You were being wise. And that wisdom didn't come from any protocol or tradition. It came from here." He tapped his chest. "From learning to see beyond the surface. From understanding that sometimes the scariest thing we can do is admit we might be wrong about how things have to be." Kira's armor finally settled into the new pattern, and this time she didn't fight it. "The Council will not understand. Then make them understand. Show them what I've seen, that the most powerful diplomat on this station isn't the one who makes others tremble, but the one who's learned to bridge worlds." 10 minutes to departure. Kira straightened, her full height impressive even without trying to intimidate. "You realize that if I fail to convince them, I will likely be reassigned. Possibly to the furthest outpost the Council can find. Then I guess I'll have to submit a lot of transfer requests. This station's getting pretty boring anyway. I've already fixed most of the interesting stuff. You would follow. Someone has to keep you from getting too serious. Besides," he grinned, "I hear distant outposts have terrible maintenance records. Job security." For the first time in her diplomatic career, Kira did something that would have scandalized the entire council. She laughed. Not a diplomatic chuckle or a calculated show of amusement, but a genuine laugh that made her head frills dance. 5 minutes to departure. "I should go," she said, composing herself but not hiding the warmth in her voice. "Yeah." Marcus stepped back, then suddenly remembered something. "Oh hey, one more thing. That new armor pattern. I figured out what it means." "How could you possibly?" "Hope," he said simply. "It means hope. The kind that comes from knowing things can change, that they can be better than what tradition says they have to be." Kira looked down at her armor, still displaying its unprecedented configuration. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "you are not entirely wrong. I'm going to miss these heartwarming moments of almost praise." 2 minutes to departure. Kira moved toward the door, then paused. "Marcus Reed?" "Yeah. Thank you. For teaching me that protocol is not always wisdom, and that change is not always threat. Thank you for learning. And hey," he held up his hand, "one for the road." With dignified precision, Kira gave him a perfect high five. Her armor rippled with patterns of amusement and affection as she turned to leave. "Try not to destroy my station while I'm gone," she called over her shoulder. "No promises," he shouted back. "But I'll do my best to keep it interesting for when you return." As Kira walked toward the shuttle bay, her steps sure and steady, she felt the weight of the modified maintenance badge in her pocket. Her armor continued to display its pattern of hope, and for the first time in her diplomatic career, she was looking forward to breaking protocol. Behind her, through the station systems, she could hear Marcus whistling that same off-key tune from their first meeting. This time, though, it didn't sound irritating at all. It sounded like possibility. The station's AI made one final announcement as she boarded her shuttle, Ambassador Kira Valen departing. Personal log update, status of diplomatic protocols, evolving. And somewhere in the vast database of Nixtharian diplomatic history, a new entry began to write itself, the story of how an ambassador and an engineer proved that the strongest bonds aren't forged by fear, but by the courage to see beyond it.